I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm really excited for this figure for reasons that are kinda dumb, but please just bear with me. From Transformers Legacy United and the Walmart exclusive Star Raider subline, this is Filch, who is representing the RID 2015 universe. And the reason I am so into this is because out of every, at least United States version of the Transformers universe, every cartoon, every continuity, the one I know the absolute least about is RID 2015. Now, I like to take some pride in thinking that I know a good bit about most continuities. IDW, Animated, G1, Prime, Skybound, IDW2, Beast Wars, RID 2001. I've seen most of these things from front to back, or at least can paint a broad enough picture to kind of figure out what goes where. Not the case with RID 2015. I have never seen a single full episode of it. I know very little about the characters within it. I have an idea as to some of who the major characters were, but that's about it. I lovingly call RID 2015 as my lost shore in the Transformers continuity because I just don't know much about it. And I don't actively pursue knowing much about it because I want to always be surprised. It's that one great big bubble of Transformers that I just don't know that much about. I know very little about the toys, about the characters, about the story, and because of that, I'm always really surprised and excited when I hear about the things that were going on during it. Quite frankly, Steeljaw seems like one of the most amazing Decepticons of all time, and one day I am going to watch the show. But I want to do it, episode to episode, take my time, because it is really cool to me that there's still such a massive part of this franchise that I just have absolutely no understanding of. And quite frankly, Filch is going to help me experience some of it today. So Filch, if you do not know her, she is from RID 2015, and I actually know that there was a running gag with her. So she turns into a crow, and in real life, crows are attracted to shiny things. They love to go for coins and jewelry. There's actually a big thing here in the South. Do not wear earrings during autumn because the crows will go for it. But because of that was Filch's whole gimmick, was that she would kind of just pop into episodes randomly and try to grab shiny things. And another thing I know about her, and this is from Vangelis, apparently you never saw her robot mode in the show. So they've actually made a robot mode for this character for this line, which is super cool. Here on the back, you can actually see what the robot mode and the vehicle mode look like. If you're curious, this is Studio Series Rise of the Beast Air Razor, pretty heavily remolded into Filch. The bird mode I think looks great. I love how the robot mode looks, but I also think this is funny because it's a heavy remold of a heavy remold, because Kingdom Air Razor was heavily remolded into Studio Series Air Razor, and now remolded to come right back into the Legacy line. That's like 16 walls, man. Getting Filch out of the box, and I have to say, I'm really taken with this figure. I think it's very goofy. I love the general proportions here. And the thing is, Air Razor I always think as being cool and confident. I would make her poses seem a little bit more, authoritative, like she's an action movie star. With Filch, I realized just how much potential there is in this mold to make a very goofy or very finicky type of character. And I think it actually looks better when you do have Filch be a little bit more unassuming, a little bit more of what I would call nerd poses, as if she's always kind of cowering, and that's just in keeping with the idea that she is a crow. Because I don't know if you noticed, crows aren't exactly like eagles. They don't strut around with all that much pride. They always look more like they're kind of hunched down and just keeping an eye on everything. And speaking of keeping an eye on everything, I think there's so much character in the paint scheme and the head sculpt here. I absolutely love Filch's head sculpt. I think that the way they picked out the blueness of the eyes by giving those darker purple rings around them just makes this one of the best head sculpts I've seen in a long while. I like her lips. I like how her helmet kind of curves upward. Again, it kind of reminds me of a crow with their feathers. It's such a good looking head sculpt that's amplified by this color scheme. A very royal violet, the light purple, a kind of cobalt blue, and then some very purplish gray pieces. It is a very wintry color scheme, much of cold tones and not much else, and I love it. I think it looks absolutely great. And just to help break things up, there's also this very slight cyan that goes throughout the body. There's not many places where it shows up, but where it does, it really does help pick things out. Here on the back you can see the great paint has continued. You also have the sculpted detail of the feathers. It's a good looking figure from top to bottom. Now, how we've been looking at Filch is how she came out of the package. However, she does have some accessories, that being these wing pieces. So here's what you can do with them, right? You can either put them on the wings back here, they just go in, and that completes the wing look. That's good, we're going to use that for bird mode. But you have another option. You can put them here in the arms and give her just a little bit more plumage down here. I actually really like how they look down here. They give her some good weapons if you want to maybe fold them down, turn them into swords, or just kind of keep them on her arms, and I think it just really does make this look like, who was the character from Resident Evil 4? The Merchant. Something about the colors and how the proportions look when you have these on the forearms, it reminds me of the Merchant, like flashing out his jacket to show you all the guns. I'm ready for Filch to say, is that all, stranger, before we exile the menu and possibly accidentally shoot him in the face. Because for some reason, the same button you use to get out of the menu is the button you use to fire, and if you accidentally double-click it, you will shoot the Merchant in the face. I don't know what that has to do with this review. I'm just, at this point, making weird associations in my head. I'm very sorry. To bring us back on topic, why don't we talk about articulation, because we have a good suite of it. There is a ball joint here in the head, gives you a lot of range of motion. There's also a good ab crunch at play, and you can get a little bit motion out of the head by using the beak. I was very careful because when you move the ball joint, you do move all those other things, but it does give you a lot of range in the torso. You have a universal here in the shoulder that's a bit stiff, an upper arm cut, a single jointed elbow, nothing at the wrist. I thought there'd be a rotation, but it's plugged in, so no wrist rotation. But we do have a waist, a universal at the hip that goes all the way out. You have a good, no upper leg cut, but you do have a knee cut, as well as a knee joint that goes all the way in. My word, that's great. And then down here you have a ball joint for the foot, and you can mistransform it to get the foot out a little bit more. As you can see, I have the robot mode foot deployed. Quite frankly, I think Filch looks better if you keep the monster feet out. That's how she comes packaged, and also I think it just makes her look a little bit better. Like I said, the thing I like about Filch, at least from what I've seen of her, is that she's kind of leaning into Beast Wars and the idea that you can kind of be consumed by your Beast alternate mode. I like the idea that Filch is just this kind of weirdo who doesn't really know what they're doing. They're just straight up Crow mentality right now. They want the shiny thing, they want to hang out on a power line. I dig it. I think them and Inferno would be good buddies. Here's Filch alongside Strong Arm, also from Legacy. So this is our two representatives of RID 2015 within this toy line. And as much as I don't really know RID 2015, I do know Strong Arm. I love the design, I love what I've seen of the character, I like the idea of the straight-laced cadet, and I really liked her in the last Transformers story. The kind of final wrap-up storyline put out by IDW, the one where it's Rodimus and he's the last Autobot around. That comic is what really gave me such a love of Strong Arm and Steeljaw, and I am really hoping that we get a Steeljaw in this line eventually, because like I said, the little bit I've seen of him makes me think that he's like one of the best Decepticons made in the past decade. I'm really into his character. And then for fun, here's Filch alongside some proper RID 2015 figures. These were the deluxe class Optimus Prime, Strong Arm, and Thunderhoof. Or perhaps I should call him Thunderhoof, because I do know that his whole gimmick is he's a Canadian gangster, which is great, and also he looks like a reindeer or a moose, which is even better. And I'm also going to say this, I really like the RID 2015 Strong Arm. This was the only toy I got from RID 2015 when it was on the air. Still really like it. Optimus and Thunderhoof came into my life later. I like them too. They're good, simple, blocky Transformers. It makes me want to like find more of these guys over time. But again, just like the show, just like the fiction, I just want to find out a little bit from time to time. I'm never doing searches to figure out much about these guys, unless it's for like the many toys of. But, I'm gonna say it again, I think Filch looks really good with these guys. The aesthetic doesn't really match up, but I kinda like how the colors all look together. That's the great thing about Legacy. Essentially with every universe they did aside from the first Prime guys, but for the animated figures, the RID figures, both RID 2015 and 2001, I should say, and especially with the Armada and Cybertron guys, the aesthetics have been caught so perfectly that you can put these alongside the older figures and they actually blend in really well. I think I've made it obvious at this point, I love Filch's robot mode, especially if you give her a nickel or a quarter so she has something shiny to really covet. But now, why don't we actually transform her into her Crow mode and see how that turned out? Man, all these years later, and even in these colors, the Kingdom Airraiser transformation and bird mode are still just sublime. So much hidden articulation, a wonderful transformation, and so much character put into this bird head. I love it. I loved it a lot as Airraiser, and when I first messed with Kingdom Airraiser, my first thought was, wow, someone at Hasbro loves Airraiser. Airraiser must be their pet favorite, because it was such a great deluxe. And now, seeing it as Filch all these years later, it still holds up so well. You have so many options with what to do here, and so many little details that they didn't need to include, but they did. And I'm happy to say that Filch, for their first toy, they were given a really, really good one. So what makes this bird mode so good? Well, let's start with the head. You have a swivel, and you can go a little bit up and down, and the beak opens. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but look at how many little different emotions that you can get. So good, so wonderful. It helps that the paint is so great with the little dark purple eyebrow, with the yellow eye and the little cyan iris. It is just the best. Look at how low the head can get too, so you can get a really menacing looking crow. Alongside that, we get into the wings. So you have a hinge here at the base. You have another hinge here. So hinge at the base, hinge here, hinge right past that, and then the final bit of the wing is on that swivel because we plugged it in, and there's another hinge at that. So you can get like full wings out, about to take flight. You can get a little bit more of like this crow is roosting, make it very, very vulture-like, very creepy. This is actually a lot better for a character like Filch than it even was for Airraiser. Airraiser, it doesn't really fit to have her in a more cowering or menacing pose. It definitely works for a Decepticon crow, though. Getting down to the legs, you can still extend them if you would like, and you have a little bit of back and forth and a ball joint at the foot still. It's just great. Of course, if you look here, you can start to see things like the gap and the arms and the head, but beast modes are always working at a little bit of a disadvantage compared to like vehicle transformers, and especially birds just don't have that much mass to work with. I honestly think, though, that if you're given all the proper credit to the designers, this is still one of the most impressive deluxes of all time for the complexity of the design that still resulted in such a simple transformation for us, the consumers, the fans. I am just utterly smitten with this mold, and I think that Filch wears it so well. A great robot mode, a great beast mode, a cool character, a wonderful paint scheme. For me, Filch is firing on all cylinders. I'm honestly as impressed with her as I was with characters that like the Titan class Metroplex I just got, or some of the Legacy United guys like Gears. And it kind of goes back to that central idea. I underestimated how much I would enjoy this toy. I thought it would feel like, Studio Series Airraiser with a garish paint scheme. Instead, I'm having so much fun actually putting this toy into poses I would have never thought of before, because it would have been too pathetic for Airraiser, not for Filch. Filch is this amazing golem of a transformer. And on that note, why don't we pop back to robot mode? Hey guys, before we give closing thoughts, I did want to give this correction. Filch's wrists actually do bend upwards, not side to side, but upwards. That's for transformation. I did miss that, so I did want to clarify before we wrap the video up. To me, Filch is showing the true magic of the new Legacy United line and the promise that Legacy has been making to us fans. Quite frankly, there is more to Transformers than just G1. And for a long time, it felt like the Generations line was forgetting that. We'd get occasional references, but it was just G1 all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. I like the G1 designs and characters, but that's not everyone's bread and butter. A person like me, my bread and butter is animated, IDW, Prime. But there's people who would have come up right behind me. Their bread and butter is rescue bots, and things like this, RID 2015. The fact of the matter is, I don't know who Filch is. But as my type of Transformers fan, which is someone who may not know much about RID 2015, a toy like this makes me interested. It's a great character with an amazing look that is filling out the line, but is also giving me a glimpse as to what I might have missed out on. For someone else, though, who did grow up with RID 2015, and maybe can tell you by name every episode Filch showed up in, I hope that this is a potential that has been realized. I hope that this is the Filch that they had been hoping for and are now getting. The same way that I was so absolutely enamored with my Titan class Tidal Wave or my Cybertron Starscream, the designs that I always wanted toys of but never got. I hope that this Filch is doing the same exact thing for those fans. It is an incredible toy, giving a corner of love to a corner of Transformers that just hasn't been getting all that much praise the way it should have been. There's been 40 years of this franchise, and every single year there was new fans made. There were people who came in, and that series that brought them in is their favorite, or one of their favorites. Armada fans, Cybertron fans, Energon fans, RID 2015 fans, Prime fans, Animated fans, Cyberverse fans. We're eating pretty well right now, and I hope that continues, because at the end of the day, it's designs and characters like this that are so far off the beaten path that makes Transformers so great to really explore.